Olá pessoal, bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite para quem estiver nos assistindo. Estamos aqui para gravar o nosso quarto episódio do INESFA TALK. Eu sou Roger Amarante, responsável pelo relacionamento internacional do Instituto Nacional de Reciclagem, o INESFA, e obrigado por estarem nos assistindo. Esse episódio está sendo gravado aqui na Waste Expo Brasil, que está acontecendo aqui no Center Norte, no Pavilhão Verde, e por esse motivo nós não vamos conseguir fazer como de costumes, acompanhar e responder as perguntas online. Mas deixe seus comentários, divulguem nosso podcast, curtam o sininho, subscrevam e nos sigam, para que a gente possa ter o maior alcance possível para os maiores recicladores do Brasil. E hoje, pela primeira vez, nós vamos ter o primeiro podcast internacional. Olha que chique, hein? E nada menos, nada mais do que duas pessoas extremamente importantes, responsáveis por trabalhar pelo ISRI, que é o Instituto de Reciclagem americano, que cuida da indústria de reciclagem nos Estados Unidos. Nós vamos ter aqui o Brian Henesey, que é o presidente, o chairman do board, e nós vamos ter o Adam Shaffer, que é o VP, o Assistant VP, como ele falou, do International Trade e Global Affairs. Então nós vamos conversar, bater um papo com eles. Aproveitem que também vai ser traduzido embaixo, vai ter a tradução para aqueles que não entenderem inglês. E deixem seus comentários, promotam o nosso vídeo e nós estamos aqui para trabalhar para vocês. O podcast, o INESFA Talk, é uma promoção do INESFA em homenagem a vocês, para que queiram nos acompanhar e saber o que tem acontecido, o trabalho que nós vamos fazendo no governo e todos os trabalhos voltados para a reciclagem, e possa divulgar o máximo possível o setor. Bom, senhores, nós vamos em inglês, ok? Thank you guys. Now we have here our first international podcast. Every day I have more fun in this podcast because it's funny, this relaxed conversation, talking about our industry and recycling. It is something we love a lot. Mm-hmm. We work a lot. We like to work for free, for payment, for money. I think we are exciting on working in recycling. So I am and all since I started in this sector, I got fluent, like they say. You have the recycling in your blood, and you never give up. Well, we have Brian Henesey, the chairman of ISRI, the International Recycling Association America. It's an international recycling industry that you have a chance to talk about and see the correct words. Okay, sure. Because I translate them in Portuguese.
Great.
And we have Adam Shaffer, the Assistant Vice President of International Trade and Global Affairs. Long title, huh? Welcome, guys. Let's start with Adam or Brian, and give me a briefing. Tell me about ISRI. Tell me about your trip to Brazil, your first time. So let's have fun.
Oh gosh, let's have fun. Wow, I've been having so much fun since I landed Tuesday morning that I just let the party and the fun continue, Roger.
First time in Brazil,
First time in Brazil.
Great, man.
I've one of my bucket lists, so they say in English, that I've wanted to travel. It's incredible. It's beautiful. The people, the food. You know, when I'll be done with my chairmanship in ISRI early next year, and one of the things I'm going to do with my wife is travel after I'm done, and I want to come back.
Well, you open the door. Now you're welcome. Come anytime.
Definitely want to come back. It's amazing.
Tell me about ISRI a little bit. Your chairman is, I think you have 2 years working, or it's a 4 years period of yours? It's 2 years.
It's a good question. So in our association, which the acronym is Institute Scrap Recycling Industries, we are a national trade association, but we do have roughly 41 international members.
Wow.
We have over 1,600 companies that are in our membership, and directly, indirectly, it's over 500,000 jobs in North America. The role or the process to be the chairman of the association, it steps as being an officer of the board. First, the structure is we have a national board of directors, and then there is an executive committee or officers and the chairman that oversees the board.
Wow.
To become, it is a 10-year commitment, and every 2 years you move up the ladder. So I'm in year 7 and 8 as the chairman, and then there's 3 steps or 3 2-year cycles before I become chairman, where you're training, learning, and actually assisting the then chair to help lead the association. And as I said, 10 years. Once I'm complete in April of my chairmanship, it's a title called immediate past chairman, where you just still engage and just try to not mentor, but help the existing officers and the new incoming chair.
What a great job.
Yeah.
Interesting you saying that. We didn't know that because, you know, we have our association here and you elect. Now you're the president. It's your problem. So here you have to say that the potato is hot. So
Yes.
now it's your time.
Yeah.
But interesting this way to do it. We didn't know that. Very, very interesting.
Yeah. But we also have many chapters within in the United States and parts of Canada and Mexico as well. And it's a similar process in the leadership. There's steps. There's, it's usually 6-year commitments within our chapters. That's more of the hot potato, we would say.
Okay.
But I started my leadership and my role with ISRI working within the chapter and chapter leadership. And so that's my foundation within ISRI. And so once I was complete with my chapter roles, I was then what's called an at-large board of directors on the national board. And then after that, I ran an election to become eventually the chairman of the association. So it's a dynamic, it's a fascinating, and it's a long process with many steps. But as we're here in Brazil, it's a lot of fun.
Wow, congratulations, man.
Yeah, thank you.
The ISRI is the largest recycling association with companies in the world. So these numbers are big, and you always is like, is the guys to follow and respect and do what the jobs, your leadership. So you're like a kind of mirror for you guys. It's interesting. I went in the first ISRI in 2011, so I have almost 12 conventions.
Okay.
And it's unbelievable, people. It's unbelievable the size. And if you're a recycler, if you intend to grow and be international, you must go every year in April, yeah?
It's usually in April.
The big convention is in April.
Yes, is our convention and trade show expo. We're really excited. It is the largest recycling expo, specifically recycling expo in the world. And those before me put so much time and hard work to grow this convention and this expo, and we're going to continue to grow it. And the future's bright, and our membership base is growing in ISRI. We're also growing international as well.
You have 41 members.
41 now, but we continue to get more international, even though we're a national association. But ISRI is not just about the United States. ISRI is about the recycling industry and how we can help our members with safety and education, and the list goes on. So we're excited about the growth. We're excited about the future. We've had a president lead our association, and she's globally known. Her name is Robin Wiener. And this year we're so excited. She celebrated her 25th anniversary as being the president of our association.
Wow.
And so, yeah,
this year, 2023? Or it's going to be next year?
This year is our 25th anniversary.
Wow.
She's been with ISRI longer, but as the president.
Okay.
And her job is a full-time job, as Adam is a full-time job, whereas my role as chair, I'm an ISRI member, and I'm a volunteer. And then we have staff and leadership. We have our leadership, we have our staff, and Robin's our president.
It's beautiful because, of course, we need to hire people to help and work the job.
Correct.
But be a volunteer, I think, change your way to do it. It's more by heart than it's my job, of course. So you take it as a feeling of love to do that, And it's interesting.
If you don't love the industry and don't love the association that you're engaged with, you get what you put into it, right?
Yes.
So if you really don't have the passion, you're not going to get as much. But if you've been in this industry I've been in this industry for so many years, and if anyone's been in it, we're a dynamic and we're an innovative industry, and the people that we have, whether I'm here in Sao Paulo or New Delhi, India, or Dubai or London, the industry is pretty much the same, right? It's different in different parts of the world, but the people are truly the same. And that's what makes it so fascinating. And every morning I wake up, I have my day job, I have my ISRI role, and I just can't wait to get in the car or can't wait to get on the phone and start talking with people and doing the business of the association. It's awesome.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Adam, welcome. You're the assistant VP of international trade. I like the title. So you say the next step's going to be VP.
Oh, yeah.
Well, tell me about your job. Tell me about your work for ISRI. I know you're a full-time job, so you have a lot of commitment and responsibility. And I think you told us before you're coming from the other side of the industry, that is steel mill, so now you're in the recycling. So tell me how exciting it is. Because you just got in April, yeah?
I did, yes. I joined ISRI back in April. Actually, they throw you in. ISRI tends to throw you in right at the convention time. They like to put you into the fire pit, make sure that you can handle all of the work, all of the members, all of the issues. So I started the same week as convention in April in Nashville. Brian,
I remember we met. You have 1 week.
No, I didn't have 1 week. I think I met you on day 2, maybe day 1, day 2. We were meeting. We were doing all these international global meetings.
Welcome. You are in the turbulence.
I'm still here 5 or 6 months later. So
well, you survived the convention in the last minute, so now you're okay.
So I came from the steel mill side. So I worked for a similar association to ISRI, a lot smaller though. Our members were the large steel producers within the U.S. So think Nucor, Cleveland-Cliffs, U.S. Steel, ArcelorMittal. So both the recycled steel users, but also the integrated steel producers. So I worked on public policy, trade issues, transportation issues there. And then, I joined ISRI about 6 months ago, and haven't looked back since.
Tell me about your work, because I saw you take care of the trade, international trade, and the global affairs. So you are involved at BIR, we're going to talk about that. You involve all the discussions internationally, what's the issues in Europe. You have probably you have been involved on the Basel agreement.
The Basel,
so I don't know if it was that time. I don't know. I could remember if it's finished already. There's a remodel the Basel Convention, but tell me about this international work. It's
Sure.
exciting because when you talk ISRI, you just think about the association US. No, but you have the international area, so you're involved and help. That's why you are guys here. We invite you to come here, and this co-working, it's helped us a lot. Got more strong the industry.
Yeah, so there's really 2 big components to my job. The first is trade, international trade, so dealing with the U.S. government on some of trade policy issues that are impacting our sector, our industry, but also, as you mentioned, the Basel Convention, so dealing with some of the international organizations, some of the international recycling associations like BIR, but then also being the face of ISRI and working with Brian and working with Robin and our other leadership to ensure that we're engaging and collaborating with INESFA, with MRAI in India, with CARI in Canada. So it's kind of a multi-pronged role, doing both the trade work on one hand, on the nitty-gritty policy work, making sure that some of the trade policies, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later, how they impact our members and our industry at large, but then also going and representing our industry at conferences and at events and speaking engagements, and basically anywhere where we are needed internationally, you'll probably see me there.
Great. Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Talking about trading policies and environment policies, that has changing a lot for the last, let's say, 2 years. So from actually since COVID, like you said at a convention yesterday, and we start seeing a lot of issues, banning, new regulations, tax. So what are you guys feeling? What's happened? Why this changing so much? That's a policies, that's a political interest. That's why the mills are local interesting. How that reflects in our business? Because we suffer here a lot. We discussed about that. We share a lot of that. So I'd like your opinion. How this international, I think it's an adjustment of the world. So probably they start saying about the climate changing and blah, 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 blah. But that reflects the companies and our association. Mm-hmm. So tell me about a little bit.
I'll start with what I see that's happening within the North America, United States. Adam can touch more on the international component. So, and you're right. We've seen a quicker evolution or since COVID. But Roger, this really started before COVID. I think when COVID came in, it just accelerated the pace in which we're seeing it. And in North America or the United States, there's a couple components. We have, as you may know here, there's a big push for social justice, social change within the United States. And that's really a broad meaning of what we're looking. And one is, it's called environmental justice. And that is essentially the communities in which industry is in. It's ensuring ultimately that the communities in the heavy manufacturing industry can work together and that we're responsible and we're good neighbors within our communities. That environmental justice has been around since the 1960s, but a couple years before COVID, that started to progress and go much further. Another component is we have the climate change, right? Regardless of your views if climate change is or is not real, the reality is many people believe it, and that we are adjusting our ways as with circular economy. Let's go to a net carbon zero and let's reduce our greenhouse gases. And in the United States alone, many steel mills are starting to convert over to electric arc furnaces from BOFs and BAFs, which is better which is usually less greenhouse gas emissions. We also see in the state of California, I believe, Adam, correct me, within the next 5 or 10 years, all the new vehicles are going to be electric.
That is for 2030, 35?
2032, something within the next 10 years.
So sooner, before we know it's going to be here, so they want to make a shift to go all electric. So
and
it's
US,
moving fast.
US is famous to use gas.
Well, because
so now we are let's do 100% electric. So it's
correct, and it's all about the emissions, not really the price of the gas. So
true.
We're seeing a lot, but and many see that as challenges for our industry. I see it. Yes, there's challenges in adjusting. There's challenges in evolving, but our industry is innovative and we adapt. Correct, and so I see so many of these opportunities. With environmental justice, we all want to be good neighbors with our community, right?
Yes.
If you have a happier community, many of the workers in your facilities are from your community, you're going to have a better business. You're going to have a stronger business. You're going to be a more profitable business. So that component. And then if we're looking at converting over to electric, we're still going to be able to recycle vehicles, right? It's just we're going to have to do things differently. So when doors close, multiple open. So I mean, I can go on for an hour about this with what I'm seeing in the United States, but Adam, if you want to share more on Roger's question regarding the global impact.
Sure. I think there's a lot of efforts to decarbonize globally, particularly in the steel sector, for instance. They're one of the largest single sectors for carbon emissions. I think it's something like 7 or 8% of global emissions are just from the steel industry alone. And so I think, we've always viewed ourselves as the original sustainable material. We've always viewed ourselves as the original environmental industry. So I think a lot of countries are particularly in Europe and in Southeast Asia, they're catching up to a little bit of what's going on in the U.S. Our share of EAF versus integrated is basically reverse from the world. So we have a lot more electric arc furnaces that are producing steel much lower embedded carbon footprint than the rest of the world. And so I think that countries are really trying to figure out how they can keep their own recycled steel in their countries. And so I think they think that they can implement environmental policies that have the effect of trade restrictions. And I know that, ISRI, BIR, all of our global association partners, we've all constantly advocated for free and fair trade because, for not just ferrous, but also all recycled materials, because, we view this market opportunities as a way to adapt when certain markets are up, certain markets are down. We can always trade and take advantage, take those opportunities, as Brian mentioned. So, there are certainly challenges, but there's also a really significant opportunity for us. And I think we want to make sure that other countries don't necessarily shut the door and try to seal off their markets.
We see this moving from Europe. Our last meetings at BIR, the World Council Recycling Association, we saw a lot of movings especially from Italy. I think it's the first country in to say, okay, let's ban and export on moving material. We had that before COVID, when China blocked to import all the kind of materials. So right. Maybe it's because the waste material are moving a lot, and like I say, by the way, we are not a wasting industry, we are recycling industry. Correct. This is very important to know and to publish that. But Europe started doing that. We know, and everybody's feeling, especially you, because you have your own company, all the fixed costs are increasing. So you have a lot of oil prices, equipment prices, manufacturing pricing, the cost, the labor cost. Everything is increased after COVID, and maybe that's one thing they try to keep the material at their country, is because our association saying, I cannot control the pricing I buy material, because that's a market material pricing. I cannot control the pricing I'm selling material, because that's a market pricing. So, of course, depend on all the situations, but the only thing we can control is the operation cost.
Correct.
If the operation cost increase, so I think they are trying to control the material for not going abroad, to control the prices. That's what we are guessing. Maybe that is another reason. I don't know what you guys thinking about that.
I have several opinions and thoughts on why.
It's not because they are not incorrect, but their cost increase too much, and that's inflation's coming. That's one point.
I see it through several different lenses, Rogers. There's one lens, as the world, as we just touched on, is looking to decarbonize and get net zero. And we're moving more to EAFs, and several nations or several countries want to increase their new steel production. It's definitely published. India wants to go from roughly 120 million ton of new steel a year to approximately, I believe, 300 million ton within the next 10 years. That's a big increase in new steel. So I believe that as these nations look at with decarbonization, net zero, increase new steel, they're worried about having the source of the necessary raw material that goes into the new steel making. Because frankly, without recycled materials, there is no new steel in the future. There is no circular economy. It is a critical tranche within circular economy recycled materials. So nations from either for various reasons are becoming conscious of that, and they want to keep that home so they have that source for their manufacturing sector. Frankly, I don't believe it works. And also many of my peers and I think in the United States, we are, for the most part, full and free trade. With what's occurring and the possibility within EU coming up possibly any time, what's happening in South Africa, it's not our country's position, but ultimately I think what it would do is won't achieve the goal, and frankly I don't think it will. It probably only make their prices go up.
Yeah, I agree with you, but decarbonize it, like the guys say. Clineuda, our president, used to say, if you're going to process the material in Brazil or in India, the decarbonization is there, and the same material, it's why if I'm not making this process here in Brazil and making in India and not take care in the planet? So the steel mill says, no, you need to keep here for us.
Greenhouse gases has no borders.
We are in the
right?
same world, man.
Same planet,
we're in the same
right?
place, same planet.
Absolutely. So it knows no borders. It knows no borders.
Should not have any borders, man. Adam, other point we like to discuss about plastic. I saw there is a meeting last year in Uruguay, and plastic is a big issue, and some of the type of the plastic is they don't have destination. There is no recyclable. They are not recycled because it's a composition mixed, and they create new composition, especially on the cars industry. So how you feeling about that? Well, how is the discussion around the world about the plastics are not recyclable?
Sure. So, yeah. The United Nations, their environmental program launched plastic pollution negotiations. They're dealing a lot with plastic in the marine environment in particular. So they've had a couple of rounds of negotiations. They launched in Uruguay last year. They were in Paris earlier this year. They will be in Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya in a few weeks. ISRI, I'll be there. Alev Summer from BIR will also be there. They're still trying to scope out what exactly these negotiations are all about. They're still trying to figure out where, how much they can try to, try to control production. Or some countries want to ban certain plastics. They want to ban certain single-use plastics. They want to ban creation of certain types of polymers. I think a lot of the governments recognize that that's just not feasible, and so they're not going to end up with certain bans. I think they'll probably end up coming to some sort of nationally determined plans. Individual countries will kind of decide how they want to approach plastic pollution. ISRI's been working with the U.S. government. We've been working with EPA lately, trying to promote a lot of what our policies on plastics recycling are. We're trying to focus on design for recycling as one instance. Some of these plastic cups I'm looking at right now, are they designed using as little single polymers or polymers that can be easily recycled, easily sorted? Are we working with the brands? Are we working with the manufacturers to make sure that these products can be easily sorted as well? And we talked a couple of weeks ago, actually. BIR led a networking or a seminar on extended producer responsibility, which is part of the treaty talks as well. So we're just trying to make sure that any sort of negotiations, that they don't disrupt existing markets, but they can try to curtail some of the pollution problems. But we want to make sure that the recycling is involved, recycling is at the table.
Do you see any moving forward? Because after you guys discussion and negotiation, there is some how works in the next step to see national unions prepare a letter of recommendation, because sometimes we are discussing we in the industry, and we can maybe work together to try a solution, but we have the industry far away, so they can follow or not. So how is this we can recommend for the industry, say, okay, we are the recyclers, we have a discussion with the national union, we need to do something about the destination of the plastics, so we recommend you to use that, or you have any distance of the government? Because one of concern is to work, like you're swimming against the river.
Yeah.
So you're still swimming, nothing's happened. So what are you feeling when you have this meeting? To have some action after that, to have some procedures to follow? How you feeling the countries receiving these messages?
So in the U.S.,
I don't know if I got clear in this thing, but
the way the negotiations are going, the U.S. is, I think, being a strong advocate for our industry. They're receiving a lot of pressure from some of the virgin plastic makers, from the American Chemistry Council, from some others. So I want to say that our advocacy, we're focused on a very few small things. And so I think that they're being very receptive and responsive to what our concerns are. Within the U.S. proper, we don't have we don't see the everyday crisis that has kind of led to the pollution within, some of the island countries, for instance, in South Pacific. They're seeing plastics wash up absolutely nonstop on their shores. So, I think that the U.S. government really is trying to engage. They're trying to make sure that they're not going to, that these aren't going to ban plastics entirely, because that's counterproductive.
It's the jobs never stops. In other words.
Yeah.
Talking about advocacy, Brian, we know your industry and your recycling association is very close with the U.S. government. And to have this good relationship takes time, takes a lot of work, a lot of visits, a lot of talking. We are new here because we started doing that exactly like 3-4 years. Mm-hmm. So when we started visiting the Congress guys, they see us like, first of all, they think we are the wasting department. Oh, you just the guy who the waste? No, we don't do waste, we do recycling. Well, it's not the same thing. No, it's not the same thing. Let's teach you how to do it. But we know take time. So tell about the ISRI experience and how close you are with the government and how reaction and solutions you guys working together and how succeed you are.
I don't know if I would point how close we are. I would say we're very engaged with our government on our federal and within our states. There's a saying in America or in English, it's not a race, it's a marathon. And where I see with INESFA,
the marathon never finishes.
And it never stops. And it goes on. I look at where INESFA is today, or the association is today, similar to where we were, let's say, 30 some years ago. It really takes your members to be engaged and to be passionate about the association. Your members need to look at the better all good for the industry within here in Brazil, right? And then they have to be unified on how they want to engage what's best for the industry. And once you have that unified view within your members, and then the marathon begins. I believe you have 26 states here in Brazil, correct?
Yeah.
Is that right? You really start on the local
25
level.
25 in the federal area.
Okay. You start on the local level within your state governments and your members that are in those areas. You would have INESFA, you would have your central or your national group that would try to help with policy and positions. And you start reaching out to your local, your state government. At the same time, though, you have members that work on your federal end as well and having the same message. But, day one or year 2, it's only a start. And you have to be engaged, the same people that meet and call on your representatives. You can't do it once and go away. You need to meet, and you need to do it yearly or as frequently as possible, because they start to know you, right? People are human, right? If you know me for years, you're going to be more receptive to listening or be receptive to what I'm trying to share. And another component we learned on advocacy engagement is you always have to have integrity and speak your word. And then follow up and always honor your word, because if you have one slip and you don't communicate well or you don't get back, it's hard to get back in line and to move forward. So it's tenacity, it's a marathon, it's continued engagement, and over time, I'm confident that will, as you mentioned, be successful here in Brazil, because people are people. And so that's my lessons that I learned within the United States. We still have challenges. Governments change every couple of years. But once your name is there and people come in and they're aware of your industry or aware of your association, it's more impactful and you have more of an impact within your government and within your country. So.
Adam, you stay in Washington, so the capital of the Congress and the government, the principal area in Washington D.C. And I think we have a word in Brazil, and they say it's like, I will try to translate, but I don't think it's going to work. But in Portuguese, it's like, if you are not seen, nobody remembers you. So in other words, in Portuguese, se você não é visto, não é lembrado. So they are not remember you if you're not there every time. So you have team there in Washington. Probably you go every week and the Congress guy, hello guy, it's me, let's talk about this, or have that dinner, let's have some movements.
So I would, I know it's not an exact translation of what you said. I would say, having been in DC for about 15 years now, I would say we would view that as, if you're not at the table, you're on the table. So you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So you have to be engaged in order to constantly remind your members of Congress and the policymakers and the regulators who you are, what you're, what you stand for, who you employ in particular, and you just have to constantly be reminding them of that, because they often will reach out to you especially in the U.S. government, if something comes up, you want to have those friends around, and Brian mentioned it's like you're building these relationships because there may not be something right now, tomorrow, next week, next month that's going to be directly impactful. We had a big Hill fly-in back in July, and we met with... For our members, and we had over 100, 125, 130 meetings.
Appointments,
and most of those meetings with members of Congress, we weren't specifically asking them to vote for this particular bill that's coming up next week. We didn't ask them to fund the government or to vote for this particular nominee. But we asked them to keep a long-term trajectory for our industry, and if they have any questions about anything, always reach out. So it's all about this relationship building within Congress and with the administration.
So it's
and
like you said, some more.
Add to Adam, what's also critical so we have our national staff that works on the Hill all the time, but when the members are engaged as well, it's really critical that once you develop that rapport and relationship, something could, let's say you're a representative or a senator and something could come up and you don't understand it and it has to deal with recycling, you'll pick up the phone and call somebody in recycling that will give you a straight answer. And if you called me, Roger, and said, hey Brian, there's a bill that maybe we're working on or whatever, can you give any background on this? Let's say it's an EPR matter, extended producer responsibility. I would give you my opinion and I would share it with you. And then I would also say, this is my opinion, this is what I see in the industry. It may, frankly, not be good for you if you don't support the other bill or this bill, but I'm a straight shooter and I'm being honest with you. And then that's really the calls that you want to get to educate your representatives on the industry and, hey, what should I do? Or what do you advise? And that's when you really have the most impact. And that's part of integrity and being straight with them.
So now you change the way to do it. Instead of you approach them, they call you.
They call you.
And asking.
Yes.
That's after having built those relationships.
And that's part of the marathon, as I mentioned. And when you do that, and you're more engaged, and again, I'm sharing what I've learned from over 20 some years in the United States and working in advocacy is most people react to things, right? In the country, a bill is introduced or a law is passed and you have to react to it. You hear about it too late. But when you're engaged, right, and you're active, you're going to know about these bills and laws maybe before they're even introduced or drafted. And
you can help draft them.
Or you can help draft them.
We are helping draft several pieces of legislation on essential recycling and defining what recycling is. So there's a lot of this engagement that just it takes many years, and it's still a very collaborative process. But
it takes many years to get there, and it doesn't take long, I'd say, to lose that.
Yeah.
And so you need to be humble, you need to be appreciative, and you need to just you have to do it. You have to stay on top of it now. Because
you have in U.S. two parts of political sides. You have Democrats, and you have the Republicans.
Correct.
So you guys working at the same thing for both sides. So it doesn't matter what side they're or their philosophy, but for the recycling side, we work for both. Here we have like 30, almost 40 parts. So this is the small parties for the big ones. And when we used to say there is no political side on the recycling, there is a recycling side. So we work with all of them. So no one is, it's against the recycling situation. So I think it's the same U.S. No, you're talking to both sides.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're very bipartisan, and it happens to be partially our footprint. We have members in nearly every single congressional district. Correct me if I'm wrong. Basically all 435 congressional districts within the U.S. and every single state across the country. So every single member of every single party or of both of the major parties are representing recyclers, and so the members of Congress are very smart. The senators are very smart about figuring out. We have a constituent interest here, and so they're not just towing the party line here. They understand that it's really important for them to do things that are important.
They are very open to receive you guys.
They are.
Or some of them say, I don't want to talk about this sector. Or
on the state end, for the most part, my experience is it could be your next door neighbor as one of your state representatives. So
that's true.
And the reason that they run, they like to talk and they like to network and they like to know their. So yes, they're very receptive. On the federal end, it's a little bit more challenging because there's so many more people, but they have a responsibility correct me if I'm wrong, but they have a responsibility to listen or hear their constituents.
Yeah, exactly.
So yes, I could reach out as Brian Henesey and for an industry and schedule an appointment for my representative in Washington, D.C. You'll get that, but what are you going to get from it is the question, right? But if Brian Henesey stays engaged, continues to reach out, and does it appropriately, obviously, those doors are going to open for you. And so it's again, I'm being repetitive. It's all about tenacity and engagement.
Well, and one of the things that I think we've done well at ISRI is we conducted a couple of years ago, I think it was 2021, we did an economic impact analysis.
Oh yeah.
And it broke down, generally where the jobs are, what the overall economic impact is.
How many jobs you're generating?
About 500,000.
500,000.
About 500,000.
Directly. And industry in the United States.
And in the whole system, you think for indirectly, we are more than millions.
The last data that we saw was around 500,000 direct and indirect, but I believe the number to be higher because you need to look at the service providers, the equipment makers. So the economic impact is incredible. There was data that came out, one of ISRI's economists, roughly 10 years ago, but the recycling industry is roughly the size of the forestry or the toy industry. Obviously, the numbers of our industry goes up and down as commodity markets, but we're roughly $110 billion industry in the United States. As I mentioned yesterday, we generate or process around 130 million metric tons of recycled material annually in the United States.
It's a big,
and our members also pay a lot of taxes. So we have a tax burden, and so
that's a good point. Talking about taxes, we are facing here an issue since 2021. We had a law called the Good Law. Starts in 2095, I think. No, it was after that, 2005. And was suspended on the whole a kind of tax, like the kind of VAT tax. We don't have that right now. We are in a process to change our Congress and our system, the tax systems. But we have a called PIS and COFINS. Was on hold for the last 14 years. And since 2005, this kind of taxes are impacting 10%, 10 to 12%, the pricing of the material. So in 2021, we got surprised for one industry. They want to use the credit of these taxes, and the Supreme Court vote to get back this tax. So every time I ask in the international associations about how's the tax for the goods or the VAT or the sales tax on the goods, there is no tax. So how your system works? I know you have our income tax because every company has your income tax, but you don't have tax between products. Like when you sell product for you, I send this scrap, here's this scrap, so you are not paying tax on that until you arrive at the industry. I think so.
We do not have a recycling or a commodity exchange tax.
Okay.
Let's talk about my business. I pay every year federal tax, income tax. So the profits of the company, would go to the federal government. On my local and my state end, I pay sales tax when we start over. Since we're manufacturing my state, I will pay property tax to the county. I do not pay state tax for equipment because I'm a manufacturer and recycling is manufacturing, but we also pay property tax, and we also pay asset taxes we'll pay to our cities. So we have multiple tiers of taxes, but at this juncture we do not have we will call it a transfer or recycling or business to business tax. And yeah, I'm not familiar. I'm not an expert on VAT. We do not have it in the United States.
One point interesting you say already, you don't pay tax, state tax for the product, for the equipments. And we have
in
here
Colorado,
like
we do not.
12 to 18%.
Other states?
And several others they are, but it depends on the state constitution.
Yeah,
That's
But when you have let's say the biggest number is when a state has a state taxes for the equipment, it's like what, 6-7%?
4.5%, I believe.
4.5%. So we have here 18%. When you buy equipment to generate jobs and produce, it seems it's not workable. It's no make sense.
Well, now I think you're getting into economic philosophy, correct? There are those that believe. And we used to hear this many years ago when Ronald Reagan was president, there's trickle-down economics, whereas you have taxes low, you'll generate more income. The income you generate, you're going to reinvest in your business, expand, hire more people, whatever. You'll have the capital to do that.
Okay.
18% and more and higher, if you have less capital to invest in your business, you're not going to invest in it. So it's back to that philosophy. I've seen arguments that are merited for both sides, but but for the tax that I pay in my business on the federal tax on the income, it's in the 30% though.
Wow.
Of the income.
The income is 30%.
Yeah.
But all the expenses are deductible.
Yes, after your expenses, correct.
Okay,
Your income,
after expenses.
correct. But there's also city,
it's more fair.
but there's county, there's property.
I know.
It's not cheap. Tax compliance is not cheap in the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah. But to imagine Brazil, it's much
Well,
higher.
you mentioned the one is 18, just the one.
Just the state is
Do you get
18%.
Is there any sort of
So you have
depreciation?
18%, you have depreciation, of course. We have a federal tax like 5% for industrial products, you have 5%. And then you have this PIS, COFINS is another social tax. It's more 10% to 12%. So the problem, and you bring them any kind of equipment, you have the port taxes, then you have the PIS and COFINS, then you add the IPI. Normal, it's suspended when you are not have this equipment made in Brazil, so you provide information the equipment are coming from abroad because there's no one produced here, so you have this suspended 5%, but you have 12% of PIS COFINS. On top of that, you have 18% on the state. So
Sounds like you should have been a tax lawyer.
Yeah.
and I am not. So you need a big team to control all this tax.
Yeah.
And this new tax regulation is coming. They try to be more simple like that, but it's still higher. And then after all this, you have an income tax. So it's 27 or 30%.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's complicated. You have over employees, you have 40% tax on the salary. So it's crazy, man.
That's very
crazy.
high tax. So back to we were just discussing on the advocacy part, and as your members, as you grow and get more members, and where we were 30 some years ago, as you band and you work and you lobby and you communicate what you do. We're in the recycled materials industry, and without our industry, we're not going to have new steel. We're not going to have new products. We're not going to have pizza boxes without it. And so overtaxation and that type of a burden is not incentivizing growth and innovation. So, work with your legislators and your states and local. And it's easier said than done. And we're still evolving ourselves. But you need to engage. You need to educate. You need to communicate. Because as I mentioned yesterday in my speech, you go to the people that are not in our industry, the regular person on the street, and if you ask them if they know anything, if they heard of recycling, they'll say yes, but that's all they know. And usually
That's
what
true.
they look
Do you want
at
to
is
relate
only...
a conversation we had last
Yeah,
night?
and you'll look at, and then when they do think of it, they'll think of your residential, right, recycling. And that's, at least in the United States, 15% of the total volume of recycling is your municipal or your single-use recycling. So people don't know about our industry, so we have to communicate it. And so it's, as I said, it's a marathon, and it just...
Never stops.
I don't know, if we're not going to
Never
do it,
stops.
Roger, who's going to do it? Somebody else will do it for us, and it's something we're not going to like. And I think that's global, not just in the United
Like
States.
Adam says, you are not on the table, you're in the menu.
That's right.
Someone is going to eat you.
That's right.
So anyhow. Okay, guys, we're finished here. We are run off time. Appreciate your timing, your presence to help us here develop a better industry in Brazil. Welcome to Brazil always again. You're always invited to come here. I loved the show yesterday. Your speeches was great, and this show was growing every year. So I hope you can see more and more and more your visits here. You're always welcome. Okay. Your considerations. Thank you for be present.
Well, thank you very much. I'm humbled. We're appreciative. The collaboration between ISRI and INESFA is strong. We look forward to its continued growth, and we continue to look for better and things to come. This has been amazing. This is my first time, as I mentioned. I'd like to come back every year if I could. Beautiful
Great.
country, wonderful people, great food.
You're
impressed.
welcome.
I love it. Thank
Welcome.
you.
Adam.
This was a wonderful
Your
trip.
first time as
Wonderful
well.
trip. First time to Sao Paulo.
Oh,
so
yeah.
yes.
You
But,
told you went to Rio.
Yeah, so really glad to
Carnival?
be here. No, not Carnival. I do enjoy a good beer, but not like
No,
that.
the Carnival. Okay.
No, INESFA, the relationship is great. I really look forward to continuing to foster it. Working with Klinu and Claudia and Rafael and Danielle and everybody. It's such a pleasure. Thank you for the invitation. We will be back. I will try to bring Robin next year.
You're always welcome.
She said she missed it, so we'll try to get it on our calendar early for next year. So.
Great. Oh, by the way, Robin, we miss you. I know next time you will be here. Huh? It's your time to come over here. That's a direct invitation for you right now.
There's a non-stop, Robin.
Yeah.
So you'll be,
Okay. Yeah. Don't stop flight. There is no complaint. You don't need to Asia. Stop by in the Middle East. Okay, guys.
I
thank
also
you.
want to thank you and your members. You come to our convention in Nashville.
Oh,
You
yeah,
bring
yeah.
a lot
Yes,
of people.
last year. This
And I
year
wanna
we brought
acknowledge that.
50 guys.
Correct. I want to acknowledge that means a lot to us, and we appreciate it. So
Well, it's a part
keep
of
coming.
the co-working job.
That's right.
Yeah?
That's
It's-
right.
Las
Thank
Vegas is calling April
Yeah.
2024. So
Okay, if you want. Oh, let me talk in Portuguese.
We'll see as many of your members as
Okay.
we can.
Então, pessoal, vamos chegando ao fim aqui do nosso quarto episódio. Vocês foram convidados oficialmente para ir para o próximo ISRI, que acontecerá o ano que vem em Las Vegas, em abril. Se eu não me engano, é de 17 a 22 de abril. O site deles é irsi.org, lá tem todas as informações. O INESFA vai fazer uma missão, como todos os anos nós fazemos. Eu queria agradecer mais uma vez a visita de vocês. Curtam nossos vídeos, sigam o nosso canal, ativem o sininho, sigam nossas redes sociais. Eu sou Roger Amarante e estaremos sempre aqui com os novos episódios, ok? Obrigado, um abraço.